My name is Graham.
I'm Ashley.
And we are traveling teachers, if you don't know us. We make videos from China, and we've been dealing with COVID-19 since January, and we thought we'd make a video about some tips and tricks how to deal with the virus.
Yeah, it's been about 2 months for us. I think we're on day 60, more or less. So we figured we can take what we've learned here in China. Some of it might not apply to you, but maybe, hopefully it'll be helpful for you, those of you that are dealing with this back home. Tip number 1 is to set a schedule for yourself every day. So what we do is generally I set an alarm every morning. I wake up at about 8 o'clock, maybe earlier. I make sure to get dressed for the day. For me, that's very important. I wear professional clothes for when I'm doing my work. It just makes me feel like I'm doing my normal life. I know Graham may not feel the same about that.
No, I spend a whole day in jogging pants, so
Oops.
Unless I go out.
No, I like to wear professional clothes to do my work, and we try and keep a fairly consistent schedule. For the most part, you can see a day in the life video that we made a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I want to say for the most part, that's been fairly consistent. A couple things have changed, but not much. So we wake up, we eat our breakfast, I teach my class, we might exercise in that time in between. Then I have my Chinese class, and then Graham has his class, and then after that, maybe we'll go on another walk or shoot YouTube videos. Tip number 2.
Tip number 2 is get a hobby or start back up a hobby that you used to do. For example, I'm into videography and editing, of course, and I edit all of our videos, and so I've been learning some Adobe After Effects and Illustrator. We both are using Skillshare. This is not a sponsored video, but Skillshare is awesome. I've been learning these programs, and Ashley has been learning about Photoshop because she is going to be doing our thumbnail for our videos. And also Ashley is learning Chinese, as she mentioned earlier. And so, so it's really important to not only have a schedule, but also find hobbies. We find that we're not bored ever, and I hear this from other people that they're so bored. But I mean, there's so many things online that we could be doing in terms of what we could be learning. We have video game consoles at home. We have access to movies and TV, and we have tons of books that I haven't read yet. So I mean, there's no reason to be bored.
I'm thankful we have the internet. All right. So tip number 3 is exercise. I mean, I think a lot of people know this one. Our gym closed down. I've heard a lot of gyms closing down back home. So we make sure to be fairly consistent. I work out following YouTube videos. Just because you're supposed to be keeping away from people doesn't mean you can't go out like we're out right now. By the way, we're not wearing our masks right now because nobody is really around us. But if we were in a crowded area, we would keep our masks on. Back to my point. The exercise. I do yoga, and I used to do dancing, but my back is starting to hurt because I'm now in my 3rd trimester, 32 weeks. So because it's very important for me to keep exercising. It's so easy to just sit there and do nothing, which we've done a couple days, but try and be consistent about maintaining good fitness, especially since you're sitting around, even if it means like walking around in place as you watch your TV shows, because I'll do that a couple times.
I go for a run maybe twice or 3 times a week. Just getting outside if you can, if you're not self-quarantined. Just getting exercise at home with aerobics or anything. I think it's really good because then your endorphins promotes endorphins. I'm not a doctor, but I think that it's good to stay healthy and to stay happy as well.
Yeah, we're at the path that we normally like to do walks. Graham does runs along here pretty often.
I get the runs around here.
But we're on this like little river path. We just have to take a little tuk-tuk ride, and we're here, and it's pretty nice. Not a lot of people out here right now. Tip number 3, gear.
By that we mean we have stocked up on disinfectant at the grocery store. We have a number of different bleach and disinfectant bottles and whatnot. We have hand sanitizer, we have masks. Masks are quite prevalent in China and Asia, and so we got access to masks quite early, and so I know they were running out, and I know it's not really a big thing in the West, but I would really highly recommend, if you can find a mask, please wear it, because it doesn't just protect yourself, it protects others if you might have the disease. And we have gloves, as I mentioned. We aren't wearing the gloves now, but we normally do, and it just helps to remind us to not be touching our face or our eyes or whatnot.
So we wear the gloves. What we do with our gloves is we wear them out and about, and if we're about to eat or go inside, we take them off and we hand sanitize. It just serves as a reminder not to touch our face. For ladies, I also suggest putting your hair up in a ponytail, because I don't know about you, but my hair always gets in my face. So I'm just touching my face less because I do that. Right now we're not wearing gloves because I think we're so used to not touching our face when we're out and about that it's just such a habit that we don't really need them anymore. Plus it's getting warmer, but something to consider. Tip number 4, the numbers. All right, so what I mean by that is you can become obsessed with following the numbers. How many people are sick? How many people are dying? Who lives near me that is sick? I was obsessed with following the numbers, and I just kept checking them multiple times a day. And I think one of the most important pieces of advice that I got was don't get caught up in the numbers.
Maybe check them once a day if you want to know how high they've gotten. Don't check all the time.
I would check the numbers maybe once. Once I forced myself, okay, just check it once, because then you start also focusing on patterns and think like, oh, things are getting terrible because there were 26 cases today, or they're getting a lot better because there were no cases. And when you take it day by day, with such a new virus, then you don't really have all the information yet. So don't become obsessed with the numbers. Same with the news. Try and stick to once or twice a day following news, because you can follow down that rabbit hole.
I'm guilty of that. I'm always checking the news.
Yeah, so be careful.
I want to be informed, but it's important to diversify your viewing, like what sort of news that you view, of course.
Tip number 5, check your sources.
Check your sources. I don't know what more there is to say about that. I know that we did a video recently and we interviewed Shay and Becky, and Shay talked quite a bit about that. Make sure that you don't just get your news from one source. I'm not going to promote any particular source as saying one's better than the other. I don't want to say that, but just check a bunch of different news sources. And if the story seems, unreal, or just fact check, be smart about it.
So what we mean by that, so if I hear something crazy, then I'm gonna go on Google and search to see if there are other sources also saying the same thing. If it's just the one, it's probably not true yet, or it could be, but just hold off on sharing the news just yet, because you don't want to spread that kind of misinformation just in case.
Yeah.
I think we've brought it up before, but there's been a couple rumors of flyovers in China where people dump, disinfectant, and I don't think that's really happened. What do I know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I spoke to my brother this morning, and what's interesting is that he was mentioning about a bunch of rumors that were circling around, and it's funny because this seems to be the exact same thing that happened in China maybe 2 months ago when this first started ramping up in China, and now it's happening in the West, and they're going through you are going through the same exact thing as we did 2 months ago. And so, that's why we want to make this video, because we've been asked by people what are some tips and tricks. So hopefully this helps. If not, then you just click off our channel.
Ooh, don't do that. Next week, because we wanted to talk a little bit about teaching, but we decided that was going to be a whole nother video. So if you are a teacher, or maybe this would be helpful for parents as well. Graham and I obviously are two single adults. Not single adults.
We're not single.
We're not single, but we're 2 adults.
We're together.
Yep. Surprise. We're 2 adults in our house by ourselves, so it's a little bit more manageable for us. But I'm hoping next week's video will be helpful for parents and teachers and what kind of resources we've used and how we've taught online, because we have been doing that for quite a while now. Oh, one other tip. I forgot to say it for during our schedule.
Bonus tip.
Bonus tip. Make sure that you set some alone time for yourself, because when you're in close quarters with your family all the time, I mean, I'm lucky that I'm in quarantine with Graham, or what is it, self-isolate, the sparkly term that in the West is calling?
Social distancing.
Social distancing, yeah. We just had self-imposed quarantine, which makes it sound like we have to stay home. We don't. We just didn't have that fancy term yet. So we are home. We're around each other all the time. I'm amazed we haven't murdered each other yet. Yes, hand sanitize. But we also make sure to maintain separate quarters for certain parts of the day so that we're not like in each other's face all the time, because that would be a little much. So if you can, try and find some alone time to let yourself decompress. Like he gets to do his editing and Skillshare while what am I doing? Take my Chinese class or watch TV or whatever I need to do on my own.
We go to our separate corners.
We do. He gets the upstairs, I get the downstairs.
Yeah. Just about that point, not really related, I probably won't even add this, but there was recently an increase in divorce rate here in China, which is kind of funny because people forced to spend time together, married couples. There was like a huge uptick.
We shouldn't laugh about
divorces. No, it's just funny that that's what happens as a result of married couples spending time together. Some, not all.
Yeah. I mean, we're
Not
lucky we actually like each other. Or do we? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it's all a show. So is that all?
I think that's all. All right,
We did it.
we will see you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. We're good. You're my babies. Our favorite hubby.
Huh?
We forgot to talk about the doggies.
What do you mean?
Our favorite hobby.
Oh. Yeah, get a dog. Get a cat. Get a pet. That's another tip.
Leonard's sitting on the stairs like, get a cat? Get that cat.
Yeah, get something.
It's a good time. Lots of us are spending time at home. Good time to train a new doggy.
Excuse me.